arrested somebody this morning. Bunch of Puerto Rican guys.
Good morning, I'm Jim Roselle.
And I'm Russ Diethrick.
And welcome to the Times of Your Life. On Saturday mornings at 10:04, it's the Times of Your Life. And we have the opportunity today to talk about One More Time.
Looking forward to that show.
Sammy LaMancuso night at State Line Speedway. And one more time for 27L, the Dodge Charger. Here to tell us how this story began is Randy Anderson.
Good morning, Jim.
Good morning, Randy.
Hey, Russ. Good to see
Yes, sir.
you.
Good to see you, Randy. Thank you.
Jim and Russ and listening audience, myself and a couple of guys you may have heard of before, Greg Peterson and Randy Sweeney, have been involved in a project to document the first 10 years of State Line Speedway, 1956 to 1965. And in doing the research for that documentary film, we went out and interviewed a bunch of former participants, including Sammy LaMancuso. That was last October 2009. And during our interview with Sam, he told us that he had saved his last race car. We were stunned. Nobody saves their last race car. We knew Sam stopped racing in probably about the mid-'70s, and just nobody saves a race car that long. Well, he saved a race car. Fast forward to December of last year. Greg and Randy and I get invited to Sammy's birthday party, which was held at Lake County Dodge. And, well, one thing leads to another, and the next thing we know, Mike LaTone from DNS Glass is involved. And he says, we're going to restore Sammy's race car. And that's the beginning of the story, Jim. Mike LaTone and Sammy's crew have rebuilt Sammy's 1972 Dodge Charger. And it's going to be on display tonight at State Line Speedway on Sammy LaMancuso night.
What a wonderful story.
Great story, Jim, yes.
But I've read and I've heard, of course, that car was in the garage under wraps, never having been touched in 1974. Is that correct?
That is correct. That's what the guys have told me, that it's been under a blanket for 36 years.
And here we are, just hours away from that car being seen by the public again.
That's right, Jim, and we're really looking forward to it. Sammy and his crew are going to bring the car up to State Line early and park it behind the main bleachers tonight from 5 to 7. And Sammy and his crew will be available to talk to the fans. We've also recreated a program from 1961, that has Sammy on the cover, and we're going to distribute that free of charge to the first 400 people at State Line tonight. This is a great night to go to State Line as well, Jim, because it's also Fan Appreciation Night. The prices are unbelievably low tonight. Only $5 to get into the Speedway. Only $8 to get into the pits. So your listeners who maybe haven't been to the racetrack in a number of years, or maybe who've never been, you won't find a cheaper night than tonight. $5 for the bleachers, $8 for the pits, and you get a chance to see Sammy LaMancuso in his 27L.
I understand, Randy, that this was also a wonderful time for the Cusimanos to have a reunion.
I'm sure that the Cusimanos and the LaMancusos are going to fill up probably half the bleachers tonight, but there's still the other half for the rest of us.
Well, the gentleman we ought to bring to the microphone now is Mike LaTone. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Jim.
Tell us your story.
Oh, our story is, I guess, started Sammy telling us on our way to Talladega. John Cusimano, Sammy, and myself, we've made this annual trip for some, 14, 15 years to Talladega fall race. And Sammy was told Johnny and I that he had done the interview with Randy and Greg. And he did the interview for the car, his years at State Line, and he told us about it. So later in the night, Sammy, I think, was taking a little snooze, and Johnny and I were talking, and we said, we ought to get that car out. And we chatted about it, laughed about it, and then Sammy's 80th birthday, I guess I'm allowed to say that, right, Sammy? Sammy's 80th birthday at Lake County Dodge. Greg Peterson and Randy Peterson, they had the tape on, and they asked, what about redoing the car? We get Sammy in the room, and he said yes. And that was the challenge, and that's when it started. And April 1st, we pulled it out of the Arnold Street garage, and it was under blankets. It was under cover. In fact, we couldn't even see it after we had it out. And we loaded it up on Bruce Macy from Town Lines Flatbed and took it to Johnny's. And at that point was the challenge to get the car done.
Did you look at it and say, "Oh my Lord, what are we getting involved?"
I think Johnny actually called his mother and asked for rosaries being said, and he said, "I can't." And I kept saying, "Johnny, are you sure this is possible? I mean, this thing." And then he kept calling me, "Mike, I think we need this. I think we need that." And trying to find the old parts, and it really got to be fun because we bought quarter panels, we bought another car. Sammy had another car given to him some 25 years ago for a donor motor, which we did pull that out of it. Sammy did. We actually helped Sam. He was the head tech. I was just a guy helping him behind the scenes, but we actually got that engine out, and then it started the process. And the other unique thing here is Sammy rebuilt that motor himself, put it together. Sammy did, and same with the transmission. He had an old tranny laying around with a broken tail shaft, and he took it apart, put it back together. So it was a challenge the first night the car starting up. I kept asking, "Sam's going to run?" "Don't you worry, it's going to run." And no, the car it's really been a labor of love, I think. To see all the guys, it's like yesterday we left the racetrack and we're all back there again and telling stories at night and laughing and having fun, and that's been the really enjoyable part.
Mike, with all the publicity and what's been going on and the talk about it, has any other cars surfaced? Anybody else that raced with Sammy come forward at all?
Not to my knowledge, and Randy Anderson saying no. I don't believe there's one out there at this point.
That's really a wonderful individual story, isn't it?
Sure is, and just that he had the thought process of keeping things, and we harassed Sammy a little bit about keeping things.
A lot of
things. It is, we'll have to talk to Dorothy about this. She probably has another opinion, but no, Sammy's been he's been great to us, and to save that car, it's just been great.
Mike LaTone, thank you so much.
Okay, Jim, thank you.
What a wonderful start to the story of One More Time for Sammy LaMancuso. And for Bucky Cusimano and John Cusimano, the team that got together and decided the restoration was possible, and it's all come to fruition tonight at State Line Speedway. And the only way to introduce Sammy at this point is to listen to this. That's a 74 Dodge Charger.
Jim, I thought that was Russ coming into the parking lot today.
Sammy LaMancuso.
Sammy, I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning, Jim. Good morning, Russ.
Good morning, Sammy.
Sammy, get right up to that microphone. This is your day, your night. How do you feel right at this moment?
I feel so great, I just can't even describe it. And this is all like a dream to me. And I got to make a correction on this car being under wraps and covered up. It was not under wraps or covered. It was covered, but with junk. I mean, there was lumber on top of it. There's rain pipes on top of it. I mean, you name it, boxes of stuff all over that car. And when they just mentioned to me that they wanted to do this car, I says, guys, before you talk like that, it's in rough shape. I says, I've looked it over, and it's bad. Don't worry about it. We'll handle it. So from there, it did, and they did a beautiful job.
Sammy, where did the original car come from?
The original car come from Twin Auto.
Twin Auto.
It was a 68 Charger, and it wasn't too bad a shape either. And it came with a standard 4-speed with a 440, so I was lucky with that part. And it was $650, if you can believe that. And That's how we started with that. Then we retinned it in '72. So.
Sammy, what kind of, when you look back now, obviously you're reminiscing about your racing career. How many races were part of your career, and when did that start?
I was afraid you were going to ask me that. I don't keep track of stuff like that. A lot of people keep track of everything they do. But my career started, I'll tell you how it started. You all know Tony Caprino, I'm sure, the mayor of Lakewood. He came to me one day, was in the 40s. He said, Bud Finelli is running a race car out at Leon Speedway. He said, let's go watch him. And after that, it was all, I don't know if you want to call it uphill or downhill. Went
around and around and around.
And around and around. And that's when the racing started. And that was in like 46, 47 in through there. And then we decided we're going to have a car too. And we bought a big old 35 Cadillac, Tony and I. And that's what we raced.
Last a couple of weeks ago, knowing the World Series of Cars was here that particular day, we used this show to have people call in and tell us what's the first car they ever owned. And so I want to ask you that question, Sammy.
I had a Model A Ford 1931. And I bought that when I was 14. And I bought it in pieces. And I put it all back together, and I drove it.
Is that in the garage now, covered by junk?
Don't I wish? Yeah, I save a lot of junk, and it's always the wrong junk. My wife reminds me of that, too. Get rid of all the stuff that's worth money and keep all the junk. Yeah. But I tell you, when we put this car together, I dug a lot of stuff out of them buildings, I'll tell you, to make this car run again.
Well, it's time for the rest of the team to be introduced here, Sammy. And certainly we're delighted to welcome the Cusimano boys, Bucky and John. Bucky, good morning.
Morning, Jim. Hi, Russ.
Good morning.
Is all the story that you've heard so far true, Bucky?
Partially true, Jim.
Uh-oh. No
I don't dare to go any further than that. But yeah, it's mostly true. It's a good story.
So when the idea came forth, what was your reaction to it?
I didn't think we'd be able to do it because my recollection of the car was such that it wasn't able to be restored. But we were able to get together, my cousin Johnny and I, and get some ideas going and went from there.
What kind of hurdles did you have to jump to complete this?
Tear the sheet metal right off at Russ, all the fenders and doors and quarter panels, and straighten the rocker panels, straighten the frame, and go from there.
Well, Sammy driving, I'm sure the frame was never bent.
Oh, no. Yes, it was. we had other guys help us with that.
Well, John Cusimano, you've got to get in on this conversation. How about your reaction when you heard that this was going to be a possibility?
Well, again,
get up to the microphone, John.
We were we were on our way to Talladega. Mike mentioned it to me, and I says, you know what? I'm all in. I said, if we're going to do this, I'm all in. And he told me, well, you haven't seen this car. It's pretty rough. I says, okay. I says, we could do it. And it started from there. And it really has been a love affair. And it's all those memories from Bucky and Sammy and myself being part of the original crew. It was just, it was the thing to do. And I'm happy that I did it.
I mean, how does this car differ from the the cars that they're racing tonight? The ones that are that evolution has really been something in race cars, hasn't it, John or Sammy? Or
I'm gonna let somebody else answer that.
Yeah, they're a lot lighter. I can tell you that. I could probably make 3 of them cars they're running today out of mine. what mine weighs,
Well, Sammy, the other thing we need to say is this is a real true stock car. If you look at this car back in '72, it looks like a real car, and it's a stock car. Had a little higher performance motor and, little tweaking here and there. But compared to the cars today, them cars weigh, and Randy, you would know that, maybe 2,000 pounds.
2,300 pounds.
Okay, 2,300 pounds, and the horsepower they develop is 1,300?
No, 750, 800.
Okay. And them cars are turning the track, 14 seconds, Randy?
A good late model can get around there at 16 flat, maybe 17.
And back in Sammy days, they were at 19?
No.
Do you think? Or
They measured it in minutes, didn't they?
Sundials, right?
sundial, yeah.
Which was the problem because they raced at night.
Today the cars are mostly aluminum and fiberglass. Mine is cast iron and sheet metal. You know what I mean? It's a lot of steel.
Boilerplate.
But everybody that has seen it said, you know what, that's how a race car should look. And it is really a work of art. They did one beautiful job on that
What's
car.
the future of the car?
Well, that's what we're trying to figure out. I have no idea.
Bergman Park next year, right, Russ?
Amen.
Russ,
There'll be a show spot there.
Thank you. Yeah.
We can do that.
Right now, and the other thing is, I think next Friday night, the cruise in downtown. With the help of Gary Peters in the Cycle Shop, we produced for tonight 60 custom-made T-shirts for Sammy's Night 27L. We're going to sell them for $10 a night with a donation going to Community Foundation at Jackson Center. And hopefully, if this goes well, we'll get some more made for next week at the cruise downtown. So we do plan on having the car downtown. DJC is also going to have Kit, the car from the TV show, and the General Lee will be down there, and we'll be parked right next to him. But Lee tells me Harkness down by Powder Terrace, so the car will be downtown next week also.
But in the future with the car, please don't let Sammy take it. In 6 months, it'll be covered with junk.
No, not this.
I don't think so, Russ. I think it's going to be very well preserved and taken care of.
You're going to keep it in his living room, aren't you, Sam?
It's far too pretty, and now that Johnny and Bucky will kill me.
Well, yeah, the guys at Cusimano's Collision, they worked very hard. CarStar, they worked really hard at this thing. The paint is just immaculate. Tim Barron, he did the lettering, and the lettering is, back in the days of the 70s, 60s, 50s, I guess. Tim, I'm not sure what year he started, but they were all hand painted. And so this car, unlike the cars of today that are vinyl, this car is hand painted. That looks very nostalgic to that era. And the car, in fact, we have the old sheet metal on it. It looks just like it. So,
Well, there's one more gentleman we want to introduce on this broadcast. He's making a documentary. He's the Ken Burns of Jamestown.
That's right. Good description.
Greg Peterson, welcome to this event with your camera and what you do to make sure that it becomes part of the archives here in our town. Go ahead, Greg.
You didn't hear the question.
The question was, Greg, I called you the Ken Burns of Jamestown.
You met the real one.
I did. But,
We're meeting him this morning, really.
But seriously, Greg, the fact that you have already put this on YouTube, I understand. You call it a reality show.
Well, it has been. You got to know this is an incredibly personal story among friends, a driver, a time, a period, and it's really come back to life, and frankly, it touched me. I must tell you, I was at State Line in the early years. There's been a huge gap in my own knowledge base, but to be able to actually put a face to a name and a background with the Cusimano brothers, it's really been intriguing for me. And believe me, if you asked Bucky, John, or Sammy the questions I was asking, it became painfully clear I did not have much knowledge in this field. So we've learned through this process of putting the daily reports or weekly reports up on YouTube, which get hit immediately. So really, we've got 20, 30 separate posts on YouTube on the progress of the resurrection of 27L, from literally the taking of the tarp off and moving out of the garage and moving the car down to Cusimano Collision, trying to follow Bruce Macy in a flatbed. I really wish the police were posted at that point. I think we were doing 100 miles an hour going down Allen Street and all those twists and turns. But anyways, we got it down to Cusimano Collision, and to be able to see the progress, it's an incredibly interesting story. And throughout the process, the relationship with all of the vendors, the relationship with the Cusimanos and Sammy, the relationship with the folks at Lake County Dodge and Sammy, everything is a relationship. And believe me, everybody is donating their time, their energy, and their product. I'm sure there's lots of stories. Mike LaTone has cashed in all of his chits to have people people we didn't even know, one of them in particular who watched the YouTube, up in Western New York and made available a great deal of parts for the process.
Absolutely.
And it's an incredible story of a community coming together around the resurrection of 27L, which will be featured tonight at State Line Speedway. And I don't want to repeat that which Randy Anderson said, but I'm excited as all get out, and they're even going to throw me in the car from within, which ought to be a real interesting show. Well, I'll be anxious to see if anybody videotapes me getting in and out and what I look like, especially when I get out.
Thank you for the update, Greg. Wonderful. Certainly we want to get the team in here as often as we can here, the ones that worked on it, Bucky Cusimano and John Cusimano, of course. Bucky, where did your love of cars start? Give us an idea of where you fell in love with cars and stayed with them most of your life.
Jim, when I was 5 years old, I met Sammy. That's 1946, by the way. From there, we just stayed together. We had race cars, socialized, and that's when it all started. Sammy worked for my dad and John's dad at the dealership, and been friends that whole time.
Wonderful friendship. John, the same feeling?
Exact same feeling. Yeah, our love of cars just came from our family involvement in the car dealerships, and once you fall in love with a car, I mean, all the motorheads out there know it's wonderful.
Now, we're talking about the automobile and the State Line, etc. What's the early beginnings of State Line? How did all of that come about?
State Line Speedway started in 1956, Russ. The genesis for State Line really, you got to go back just a little bit farther to a track in Sugar Grove that was called Skyline Speedway.
Oh, yes.
Right.
One of the principal owners of Skyline Speedway was Leonard Briggs. After a disagreement with one of his partners at Skyline Speedway, he got the idea to build a new track just on the other side of the hill up at the Courtright Road in Bustye. So he got together a new group of partners, Don Frank, Jerry Frank, Lloyd Williams, and Marv Thorpe, and they built a new track up on the Courtright Road in 1956. State Line has been running continuously since 1956. This is the 55th consecutive year. That's one of the longest running tracks in America.
Wow. A lot of history.
How many wins on that track, Sammy?
Well, see, that's another thing. I don't keep track. But all the wins, you're going to have to give them to Bobby Snars and Squirt Johns and Ronnie Blackmore. They got the majority of the wins. I won some big races, but I wasn't the weekly winner like them guys were.
Sammy, part of the junk in that car, was there any checkered flags?
I didn't see any.
I'm sure you should have a wall full of them.
No, I don't. That's the kind of stuff I didn't save. See, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, a lot of things I should have done.
Are you in a saving mood now today?
I've been that way all my life. I'm going to start today.
The story of one more night at State Line Speedway. Sammy LaMancuso night tonight with the Dodge Charger. It's called the 27L.
That's what it is.
How did you choose 27?
Oh boy, that's a story that goes way back. That was in the 50s. We had a garage up on up on 2nd and Windsor with Chuck Nailbone. There was an old guy that used to come by there all the time. He was he was a little bit simple. I don't know how I should say that. His name was Harry, big, tall, skinny guy. And every time he'd come by, Chuck would ask him, "Harry, how old are you?" He'd go, 27. And every time he'd go by, they'd ask him that. He'd go, 27. So that's how we wound up with the number 27, because I was involved with Chuck Nailbone at the time.
What a fabulous story.
Then the L came about when we went to Skyline one night, and I think it was Johnny McGinley showed up or somebody, and I think he was 27 also. So I had to put an L on my number, and that's how that came about. But anyway, if you guys would have known Chuck Nailbone, that story would have been a lot funnier.
The times of your life on News Talk 1240, WJTN in Jamestown, New York. Sammy LaMancuso night at State Line Speedway with 27L. What one more time will mean tonight to our community, and we'll be back after these messages.
The times they are changing.
No, you never told that story.
Somersaults and handsprings and tumbling down the stairs and doing pratfalls. Hi, pal. This is Tom, as in Morgan, as in Tom Morgan's Money Talk here on WJTN. We're going to try to come to grips with this craziness at my Jamestown seminar at JCC on August 21, Saturday, August 21, 7 p.m. We're going to look at these crazy times. We're going to suggest how you can make the most and how you can protect your nest egg the most from the craziness. Jim Roselle is going to moderate. I'm going to bring the cookies, and we're going to have some fun. So mark your calendar. Saturday, August 21, 7 p.m., Carnahan Theater, JCC campus. Roselle, Morgan, cookies. Hey, who could ask for more? Saturday, August 21, 7 p.m., Carnahan Theater, JCC campus. I hope we'll see you there.
Why pay retail when you can get a broadcast bargain and save half price on events, dining, shopping, and more? This Thursday, while they last, save half price on Ebbs Originals gift certificates, good at the Frewsburg location. Fall into the new season with all the latest fashions. Ebbs of Frewsburg is busting at the seams with back-to-school bargains, such as American Eagle, Abercrombie & Fitch, Hollister, and much more. Visit the station's website Thursday at 3 p.m. Click on the Broadcast Bargains banner to save half price on this and other great broadcast bargains.
Back on the times of your life on News Talk 1240, WJTN in Jamestown, New York.
It's only 10 o'clock.
It's one more.
And your point?
Okay, gentlemen, we're back on the radio.
I didn't understand the question.
Have you got your earphones on, everybody? We're back on radio again with the times of your life. I want to start this portion of the show with an interesting piece of history here about that car and the movies. And it's thanks to Brian Papalea, our production manager. He got for me the movies that a Dodge Charger have been in. The Dukes of Hazzard, The A-Team, Kojak, Starsky and Hutch, Mission Impossible, Moonlighting, and Chuck. Those are the TV shows that car has been in. And the movies, I'll separate that. The movies, Stephen King's Christine, Gone in 60 Seconds, The French Connection, and Caddyshack.
And Sammy LaMancuso.
That's a reality show coming to a racetrack near you.
It's all part of the Saturday program, The Times of Your Life. We're so delighted to be a part of it, aren't we, Russ?
Oh, absolutely.
And the rest of the story is coming your way now. Greg Peterson, by the way, making a documentary of this story. And certainly the community will wait anxiously to see the final result. Randy, boy, that's going to be very special.
Yeah, we've been working on this documentary. When I say we, I mean Greg Peterson, Randy Sweeney, and myself. We've been working on this since October of last year. We went out and interviewed over 50 people that were associated with the first 10 years of State Line. About January or February, we started writing the script for the movie. All this time, we've been gathering pictures, movies, anything we can get our hands on. We never dreamed we'd get our hands on a race car. But so we started writing the script in January, February. In about March, we started the production of the film. There's a company down in Warren, Pennsylvania called All Sound Media, which is working on the production with us. And actually, we are in final edit right now and we will have the premiere of our film called State Line Speedway, The First 10 Years, on September 26th at 1 o'clock in the afternoon at the Jackson Center.
What a date. I hope they mark their calendars for that right now. Another gentleman in the studio with this wonderful group of gentlemen is Randy Sweeney of the Chautauqua Regional Foundation. Randy, good to have you on board here, buddy.
Morning, Jim. Russ.
Good morning, Randy.
Tell us how you got involved in all of this, Randy.
Well, I have a lot of the love of stock car racing that these gentlemen do, too. As a young boy, we lived within 5 miles of State Line. My grandfather was a ace mechanic, and he passed that on to my dad, who passed it on to me. And we used to go to State Line as teenagers and watch that 27L run around the track. And, we'd go home, and my brother and I and our friends, we would all paint our bicycles and try to duke it out on the driveway, just like Sammy was duking it out on the track. So we've had a love, I've had a love my entire life, of stock car racing. And along the way, as Greg and Randy started working on this documentary, the discussion of how we're going to pay for this and the raising of the money and so forth. And that's where the Community Foundation had an opportunity to get involved in this grassroots effort. And we've had a number of opportunities with groups, that have raised money for playgrounds and youth-related groups and baseball fields. And when we started talking about maybe the Community Foundation could certainly provide as a repository for the funds that we're raising for this project. So that's how the foundation got involved. And, of course, my interest, too, that tried to do what I could along the way. And I certainly want to say Greg and Randy have done a tremendous job in pulling all the various pieces together. And the hope is, and we're gaining momentum on raising enough money to finish the documentary. The postscript to that will be a permanent fund that we hope to be able to establish and that will help maintain that legacy of State Line Speedway into the future. So it's a little bit about today and the documentary, which will be aired on September 26th, but it's also about the future. State Line Speedway is something important to not only this group in this room, but to a lot of people, to this area. It's certainly been a good economic driver, and something that we feel that from the foundation's perspective, needs to be remembered, just like many of the other charitable efforts that we get involved in.
Randy, it's interesting that it's happening on this particular week because at Chautauqua this week, the theme was Sacred Spaces.
Wow.
And boy, does that tell the story of State Line Speedway and Sammy LaMancuso and Bucky and John and Randy and so many names that we don't have time to give on this program that are part of the history of that place. But you'd have to consider that a sacred space right now.
Well, absolutely. I think what you've heard here today and from all the listeners today is a representation of what racing is all about. There's a camaraderie that develops between race teams, and it's not only necessarily just the guys, but the wives, the families. We've heard that story as we've been out interviewing those over 50 individuals. It was the driver with the crew in the pits, but it's the wife, the kids in the stands. And this is very much representative of what racing is all about.
Sammy, how did you be selected the driver? Were you a winner of the Soapbox Derby or something?
No, never. I've never got involved with that.
Oh.
I just got my own car, started driving it. That's when Tony and I bought our first car.
This is a big celebration for State Line, but what are some of the other racetracks that you have participated in the area?
Well, we started out at Pennyroyal in Leon, New York, and Skyline. There was a track in Warren at one time. Warren Speedway was behind the drive-in theater in Warren.
What about the Dickey Bend? Was that what
that was? It.
Uh-huh.
That was the Dickey Bend. And then we raced at Wattsburg.
Wow.
We raced in Erie. I went to Canton, Ohio a couple times. Lancaster, New York. We went there for a NASCAR show at one time. That's about all I can think of. Oh, we went to Shippensville once. I don't know if anybody's ever even heard of it.
There was Arkwright, too, also. Wasn't
there was Arkwright, and there was Johnny's Speedway in Cuba. Yeah, I forgot that one, too.
But the hub of all of that was State Line.
State Line, yeah. That's like Randy was saying, that's the longest-running track in the...
Fabulous.
I didn't know it was in the country, but...
Bucky Cusimano, did you ever race a car?
Never raced, Jim. I warmed the car up is all I was allowed to do.
No,
my father would have killed me, and Sammy would have killed me.
Don't let him picture. He raced cars, but maybe he wasn't on the track.
A lot of street racing.
You don't want to hear all them stories. We want to give them away.
How about John Cusimano?
Yes, Jim?
Did you race a car?
No, I never did. They wouldn't let me in the car. I wasn't allowed.
Are all of you going to get a chance to take it a lap around State Line?
I built it so they can't fit in it.
That's not true. They had me up in the air the other night in it. So, but I'll guarantee you they won't. They'll take the ignition switch out if I'm around.
But Sammy, when you look forward to this wonderful evening, you have to put it in place in the history of your love of automobiles and realize that a whole team of friends, as you call them, comrades, have made it possible for you to do this.
Isn't it just amazing? I mean, it's all like a dream to me, really. It's just an amazing event, what's been happening here. And the people that have wanted to get involved in the thing. And the phone calls that I'm getting from, not from Jamestown, I mean from everywhere in the country. It's been one heck of a ride, I'll tell you. And
you know what I thought of? I don't know. I get some silly thoughts along the way sometime, as you well know. I thought anybody 27 years of age ought to be in free tonight.
Everybody will be 27 tonight.
Yeah. Franny would be glad to hear that. Let Franny know that. Yeah.
Sammy, who are some of the other? And it's hard to start naming names because the list is impossible to have it correct. But who are some of the other racers that you competed with? The other drivers.
Well, there was Bobby Snars, Squirt Johns, Dean Layfield, Ronnie Blackmer, Johnny Whitehead, Floyd Finale, Bud Finale, Carl Bentagro, that going way back.
Yeah.
Lloyd Moore.
Lloyd Moore, yeah. Lloyd Moore, that's right. Tom Dill, Kenny Shear.
Did we say Tom Dill?
Yeah, Tom Dill, he was there. He was always behind us, though. That's where he wanted to be, so he can make room. God, there's many more.
Oh, sure. But what a walk through history.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Anything special, Randy, tonight regarding the ceremony or how you're going to put that story together? Anything special planned for this evening, Randy? Is there a moment that's going to be set aside?
Oh, yeah. Sam and the car and the crew are all going to be behind the bleachers from 5 to 7. And then sometime later in the program, I would guess probably between 8 and 9 o'clock, Sammy's going to go out on the track. He's going to make some laps. Now, these guys, Bucky and John and Mike, they've installed another seat in Sam's race car. Usually, race cars only have the seat for the driver. Well, there's also a passenger seat in this 27L. And in that passenger seat is going to be Greg Peterson. Sam is going to give Greg the ride of his life tonight. Now, Greg is also going to have his ever-present video camera so that he's going to be recording Sam driving as well as what's happening out there. Now, in addition to Sam's car, there's going to be another car out on the track. State Line Speedway owns a 2-seat race car that they use to give fans rides around the track on a regular night. Well, in that extra race car tonight is going to be one of the current late model drivers at State Line, Dick Barton. He'll be driving that car, and there'll be another videographer in that seat. So that videography will be videotaping Greg and Sammy. so we got the taping the videotape. So Sam and Dick Barton are going to have some fun dicing back and forth out on the track tonight.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you very much. Oh, what a wonderful evening in store for everybody. One more night, as we've called it here. I certainly will say I piggybacked on the title. The Post-Journal gave that great story called One More Ride for Sammy LaMancuso. Sammy, the children, have they found a love of cars?
My children?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But they're not in the car business, none of them. One works as an engineer here at Jamestown Metal. Another one works for Disney out in the Chicago area. and my youngest one's in Buffalo working for Fastenal, managing a store out there. But they loved the car business, but they never. I kept them away from it, to tell you the truth. I made sure that they, when they got educated and done different things, went in a different direction.
How about the women behind the scenes in the lives of racing people?
They have to be really understanding. And in my case, I was racing before I met my wife, so it wasn't too hard. So that worked out fine for me, and she was always good with it.
Did she ever get behind the wheel?
Absolutely not. No. But she was at the races with my two older ones. They were little boys then, but she was there with them every time I raced.
Sammy, how much money did you make in your best year?
$50.
$50. That sounds about right.
I really don't have an answer for that. The most money I made in one night when we won that 150 lapper in Erie, and that was, I don't know, $14,000 or $2,000 was it? Yeah, wow. That was the biggest purse that I think I ever made. But as far as a year thing, I don't know.
It was probably in the red, wasn't it?
It always is, isn't it? Most of the time, when we always did this, any money the car made stayed with the car. Nobody ever took any money out of the car.
Wow.
And we always had money to operate with. We didn't have to go and mortgage our house. I know guys that used to go and get home improvement loans to build a car. I knew it happened, so we never did that.
The Cusimano boys here. The name Cusimano and the Cusimano's Garage is part of our history in our town. How long was the Cusimano family involved in cars, Bucky and John?
My dad and John's dad started in 1932. Fixing cars and so forth. They had a little garage on Water Street, and that's where it started. 1932, they started fixing and selling cars and built a garage up on Buffalo Street and went from there. Sammy came along and started helping them work on cars and driving one of the cars for them.
There was two other Cusimanos involved here now. There was Pete, who was the master mechanic there, and then there was also Sam, who was the body shop manager. Then John was out in the shop with us, and he later went in the office. And Jim was the big kahuna there. But it started, in a little garage on Water Street, but there was a new garage built on Water Street in the early 40s, the mid-40s when the boys got out of the Army, right behind the fire station on Windsor Street. That was where probably the second or third garage was. Then we went to Buffalo Street in 49. So
what a history.
They've been in it a long time. And I started, Bucky's dad and John's dad and Sam they were all in the service then. The only one that was here was Pete. And I was just in my teens, and I was down there helping Pete while the boys were in the Army. And I was with them guys until 1983.
Wow.
Then I went with Jerry down to Lake County.
Mm-hmm. Sammy, what's going to happen to this automobile after tonight?
Jim, you got any good ideas? Now, somebody told me, I was going to ask Franny this the other night. Somebody told me that Franny's going to build a museum. Did you hear anything like that, Randy?
No, I haven't heard that.
No. Well, somebody mentioned that he wants to build a museum down there someplace, but. And another guy, Louis Anderson, mentioned to me, we haven't mentioned his name yet, Louis Anderson. Good thing he was along when we had all this trouble with the clutch. He said that someday he's going to put up a building big enough where he wanted to know if we'd loan him the car to put in his museum for a while. But he hasn't got it built yet. But he's thinking about doing that.
Do I understand that 24L will be running around town one of these days? 3rd Street?
The 27L?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, when they do the premiere for the movie, we're going to be driving it from my house to the Jackson Center.
Beautiful.
Well, that brings up Greg Peterson one more time to the microphone. Greg, come on up here because you're in the midst of this wonderful documentary. And just give the audience the awareness of what you've already got on YouTube is it Channel 19?
Well, couple things, Jim. One is there is a YouTube. You have to go actually type it in, youtube.com, and you can type in Bram Pete, BRAMPETE, and you'll see all the posts will come up there. Or you can just type in Sammy LaMancuso. Type in Sammy LaMancuso. You'll get everything humanly possible about him.
All the junk, you mean?
That's next. The History Channel pickers will go to his garage.
That might not be a bad idea.
And the other thing we've been doing is through Time Warner Cable, Channel 19 is a public access, and we've been putting together a combination of those YouTubes, and we've been airing them the last couple of weeks, and we'll continue on for the next few weeks just because there's so much going on. So there'll be a lot of activity dealing with this. And, of course, I don't know if Randy mentioned, but when the day is done and we do the event at the Robert Jackson Center on September 26th, we're going to show the documentary, but the documentary will be reduced down to a DVD, and that will be available for everybody in the public to purchase and to have it and see much of what has gone on here the last several months.
Well, everybody is looking forward to it. And, of course, the wonderful event tonight just is a real launching pad, you say, for the wonderful history of racing in our community. And certainly, Russ, just think of the generations to come that can look back and realize what these gentlemen did to keep it alive and the joy they gave many people.
Absolutely, Jim. It's a lot of history, and it'll be enjoyed by generations for a long, long time.
More comments from the One More Ride evening at State Line Speedway, so don't go away right after these messages.
AutoZone. Have a hot set of wheels this summer with some help from AutoZone. Get in the zone. AutoZone. The summer sun makes your car shine, but it can also do some damage. So get to AutoZone to make sure it's clean and protected from top to bottom. Right now, you can do that when you buy any Eagle One car care product for only $3.99 each. Limit 3. See store for restrictions and details. Keep your car looking hot this summer. Get to AutoZone today. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
Tonight at State Line Speedway, it's Fan Appreciation Sammy LaMancuso Night, presented by Maplevale Farms and the Morgan family. Super Challenger Special 2. General admission is just $4 plus $1 donation, and pit admission just $7 plus $1 donation. Fan Appreciation Night, tonight at State Line Speedway.
Welcome back to the Times of Your Life on News Talk 1240 WJTN Radio in Jamestown, New York. I'm Jim Roselle.
I'm Russ Diethrick.
And what a team we have in the studio here. Thanks to Greg Peterson. Thanks to Mike LaTone. Thanks to Randy. Thanks to, two Randys.
Yeah, that's right.
Randy Anderson and Randy Sweeney. But it's Sammy LaMancuso night at State Line Speedway with the 27L Dodge Charger that came out of a garage that housed it since 1974. Did you ever visit it occasionally, Sammy?
Oh yeah, quite a bit. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of other stuff in there besides that car I had to go after. So. While we're talking, too, there's a couple of people we haven't mentioned. And I hate to mention names because I might forget somebody. But Johnny's worker down at Guzmano's Car Star, that little Jim Frederick, worked really, really hard on that car. And I got to remember to thank Denny Goggin, who found that Charger for us to get the parts off of.
Wow.
That's right.
I mentioned it to him one day. You ever see a car around? I need one. He says, I just seen one the other day going to Erie. I said, gee, would you stop and see if the man wants to sell it? And he did that for me. That's where that come from.
Yeah, same. But the whole staff at Cusamanos Car Star, because it's been a little bit of a diversion for him trying to work.
Oh, I know.
But we want to thank all of them and all the employees at Lake County Dodge also, because the car's been in and out of the garage and pieces. And we have a whole list on the program tonight. We hopefully didn't forget anybody, but the program that State Line's going to give away, we have all the people have called us. I mean, and Randy had mentioned that someone in West New York, we had these young fellas call us that just remember their dad talking about Sammy LaMancuso that wanted to give us parts. So it's been a fun time. But I think Peterson gave me the name of crew chief, and really I think it was a collaboration of all of the guys, the friendship, John, Bucky, myself, Dr. John, that we've had, and the love affair we've had with the race car. But bigger than that, it's Sammy and what he's meant to us over all these 50 years that I've known him. We talk about the car, One More Ride. Let me tell you something, guys. These three guys here, I talk for Bucky, Sammy, or Johnny, and myself. We are who we are today, and we owe it to Sammy because we've always looked up to him, and he's always been there for us our whole life. So this car, was easy to do. And that's when I talked to Johnny about it, he said, Mike, this is easy. And it's easy because when we wanted Sammy, he's been there for us. And this to us is a reward for us, not for him. Mm-hmm. It's for us. And we really feel good. And everybody that's been involved in it, we all feel so good about what we've done. And it's just all the community come together to help. And it's been a blast. And we've really enjoyed it. So we thank Sammy for letting us do it, Jim.
Mike, is there anything true about the rumor that Danbury Mint's coming out with a car, and that there's going to be a bobblehead of Sammy?
We're working on the car. The bobblehead I'll give to you.
Let me ask this question that I asked that Saturday when we were talking about cars because of the World Series of Cars. Boy, is that going to become an attraction at the World Series of Cars. The 27L.
I'm not sure Bergman Park's big enough to hold it in now.
Okay, let me start with Bucky Cusimano here. Bucky, of all the cars you've owned in your lifetime here, which one would you want back?
Which car would I want back?
Yeah.
Wow. I had about 12 or 13 of them, Jim, through the 60s and 70s. And
the six-pack.
There was one that stands out in my mind. It was a 69 Dodge with a six-pack engine in it, and that I should have kept. It's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars at this point.
Wow. You would have been in jail by now.
I almost was for a brief period there. But that car would stand out in my mind, Jim.
Okay, how about you, John?
Well, probably my first car was a 1969 Dodge Super Bee. Got me in a lot of trouble. Up and down 3rd Street in Jamestown and other places. So,
interesting. Yeah. How about you, Randy?
Randy's not hooked up right this up.
Randy Sweeney, 1970 Plymouth Duster, 340 4-speed, 391 rear end. Well, I'll save the stories for another time.
Wow.
And I don't know if Greg Peterson was in.
He's not hooked up either, Jim. He's not wired. I'll jump in. Mike LaTone, I'm here. Mine's home in the garage, Jim, and I leave it up on the rack so I can't get it down because every time I do, Johnny Cusimano gets out his hot rod, and we're out burning tires up. And last time we both had our cars out, it was a race across, what's that bridge in Jamestown, 3rd Street? We have to be careful. Johnny and I come roaring down 3rd Street. But I still have my 69 Super Bee home, and it's a blast, and we really enjoy it. And Johnny gets his car out, and it's dangerous.
What year is yours, John? Yours is
69.
Yours is 69 Roadrunner, yeah. They still got 2 classic cars, these guys. Well, Mike's got a garage full of them.
Well, we all have our love with cars, Sammy.
Well, before our time runs out here, just one more time, okay? Let's listen to this. That's a 74 Dodge Charger.
That's it.
Randy Anderson, thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell the full story here on radio regarding Sammy LaMancuso night.
Well, thank you, Jim and Russ. I just want to say that I was fortunate to just be able to hang around with these guys while this project was going on. And I want to reiterate what Mike LaTone said. This really isn't about the race car or even about Sammy, the race car driver. What I've learned by hanging around these guys, this project is really about Sammy LaMancuso, the man, and how much he's respected and what high esteem he's held in by his friends and family members. Dr. John LaMancuso hasn't been mentioned yet, but he's another guy that just goes on and on about what an impact Sammy has had on his life. Judge LaMancuso will tell you the same story. And that's what this is all been about as far as I'm concerned. It's been about Sammy the man and his impact on the younger generation.
What a wonderful, wonderful way to kind of chop the morning with on this broadcast. Thank you for those kind words for Sammy. But thank you to all for being here. Thank you, Bucky Cusimano.
Thank you, Jim. My pleasure.
Thank you, John Cusimano.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike LaTone.
Yes, sir, Jim. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy Sweeney.
Thanks, Jim and Russ.
And Greg Peterson. We're looking forward. We're looking forward to the completed project of the documentary. We can't wait.
I cannot wait, Joe.
No, and it'll be tonight. The ceremony. People should get there, and they do have a chance to take a souvenir home with them, right?
That's correct. Yep, they do have a souvenir program from 1961 that's been reproduced.
Rand, do you have all of the signs for tonight, the proper signage? Look but don't touch?
Not on the car, no.
Not on the car, huh?
No, we'll be all right with it.
Okay.
They're hanging one on me.
This has been the times of your life with one more night at State Line Speedway and Sammy LaMancuso. Russ, and I know that your bank, the Jamestown Savings Bank, is indeed happy to be part of making that story possible because they sponsor this broadcast.
A morning like this is a thrill for the bank.
No question about it. The wonderful evening is going to be taking place tonight at State Line Speedway. And again, our thanks to all the guests today, and folks should mark their calendar for tonight and also for September 26th. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay.
1 p.m.
We're going to pause now for ABC to update the world. And then you can join us next Saturday on the times of your life.
That was
You've done this before.
A lot of kind words, and you guys make me leave here crying.